Hello, coming to you from an undisclosed location. I'm going to be reading from Capitalism. It's a very short introduction. It basically gives you a nice definition because a lot of people are talking about it, talking about how it's dead, talking about how it doesn't work, but I just wanted to show what it is. And there's some holes in here in this definition, very technical. And I'll fill those in because that's what I'm here for. So let's begin. What is capitalism? Merchant capitalism. In April 1601, the English East India Company sent its first expedition to the East Indies. After some 18 months, its four ships, Ascension, Dragon, Hector, and Susan, had returned from Sumatra and Java with a cargo mainly of pepper. The success of this venture led to a second expedition by the same ships, which left London on March 1604. On the return journey, Hector and Susan set off first, but Susan was lost at sea, and Hector was rescued by Ascension and Dragon, which found her drifting off South Africa with most of her crew dead. Ascension, Dragon, and Hector made it back to England in May 1606 with a cargo of pepper, cloves, and nutmegs. The shareholders in these two voyages made a profit of 95% on their investment. Despite the similar success of third of the third expedition in 1607, the fourth one in 1608 consisted of the ships Ascension and Union was a complete disaster. The Ascension reached the west coast of India but was there wrecked by its proud and headstrong master, who drove his ship aground after ignoring local warnings about shoaling waters. The Union called in at a Madagascar port where the crew was ambushed and captain killed, but nonetheless the ship made it to Sumatra and loaded a cargo. On her way back, the Union was wrecked off the coast of Brittany, and the investors in this expedition lost all their capital. So, first of all, you have to understand only a country or land is land poor and resource poor is going to be overly dependent on resources from somewhere else. That's not to say that Africans weren't trading with Indians and different, but it's a different kind of thing where, let's say, an African had some resources, it was trading with an Indian or coming to the Americas and going back and forth because there's evidence of that happening. They were bringing something to take something back. Now, I'm not sure what England was doing, what they were actually taking to get these spices, because Europe is very land poor, resource poor. But something's not right because they were ambushed. And if you're bringing something to take something in a fair trade, why would you be killed? I don't know. There's something missing there. Capitalism is essentially the investment of money and the expectation of making profit. And huge profits could be made at some considerable risk by long distance trading ventures of this kind. Profit was quite simply the result of scarcity and distance. It was made from the huge difference between the price paid for, say, pepper in the Spice Islands and the price it fetched in Europe, a difference that dwarfed the cost of the venture. What mattered was whether the cargo made it back to Europe, though market conditions were also very important, for the sudden return of a large fleet could depress prices. Markets could also become saturated if the high profitability of the trade led too many to enter it. A glut of pepper eventually forced the East India Company to diversify into other spices and other products such as indigo. So again, you need money and cash when you don't have anything else. And cash really, it is kind of what you say it is, And I mean by that, we used to use the gold standard to back up the cash, and then we came off the gold standard. Now we're on the fiat standard, and it's like, what is a dollar worth? Whatever we agree that it's worth. So in actuality, money is really nothing. But we built our whole society on it, and that's a problem. And you're gonna see why it's gonna continue to be a problem. A large amount of capital was needed for this trade. An Indiaman, as the ships engaged in this trade were called, had to be built, fitted out, armed with cannon against Dutch and Portuguese rivals, and repaired if and when it returned. The company's shipyards at Blackwell and Deptford, which were major employers of local labor, required financing. Capital was also needed to stock ongoing vessels with bullion and goods to pay for the spices, with munitions, and with food and drink for the large crews they carried. On the company's third expedition, Dragon had a crew of 150, Hector 100, and Consent 30, in all 280 mouths to feed, at least initially. One reason for large crews was to make sure there were enough sailors to get the ships back after the hazards of the expedition had taken their toll. Basically, what they're saying is human bodies were being sacrificed for these things. Right? This should be no way to really live. Why would you have to live like this? The East India Company's capital was obtained largely, but not entirely, from the rich London merchants who controlled and administered it. Aristocrats and their hangers-on were another source, and one welcomed by the company because of their influence at court. The company's privileges depended on royal favor. Foreign money was also involved, mainly from Dutch merchants excluded by the rival Dutch East Indies Company. They were also a useful source of intelligence about the company's activities. So we'll stop there, and you see some of the problems capitalism has always had from the very beginning. Now you're gonna ask, why are we using capitalism? That should be the question. So I don't know what the answer is to that. Well, I guess they beat us and brutalized us into forcing us to use it. Um, and I guess, how long are we going to continue? Until next time, try to stay safe, try to stay sane.